Cole Andrews had never been a particularly gifted student. While his older siblings had excelled at everything from mathematics to literature, his own academic career had been one of frustration and underachievement. A mediocre mind toiling amongst the overbright sparks of his family's genius. At least that's what the endless stream of discouraging report cards and teachers' grim prognoses had convinced him, that he was simply less than, inadequate, ill-equipped to ascend the lofty heights his own youthful ambitions yearned to scale. Yet here he was, at 14 years old, mustering every ounce of his flagging willpower in a desperate bid to defy the odds one final time, to overcome the mental shackles that constantly threatened to anchor his spirit in the doldrums of complacency and self-doubt. Hunkered at his rickety desk, the textbook's blocky font steadily blurred and distorted as Cole's eyes grew heavy. Each blink of exhaustion brought taunting visions of that fateful morning. The slip of paper, handed to him with an air of finality by the school's stern-faced headmaster. That damning word inked in cold brutality beneath his latest abysmal exam scores, failed. If he didn't manage to pass the make-up exams in 2 weeks' time, his academic path would be torn asunder. No more advancing grades, lectures, or rocket trajectory towards the lofty dreams that had unfurled like a brilliant atlas across his imagination since childhood. The ambitions that were his guiding stars, his reason for being. Cole's mind lurched as that visceral dread tried to capsize his resolve once more. He slammed the weighty book shut, trembling hands cradling his suddenly pounding head as nausea and anxiety roiled in his gut. How many times could a person's spirit be crushed before they simply succumb to despair, throwing their feeble hopes and aspirations into that lightless abyss of failure from which no dreams could ever be reborn? His laboured exhalation misted the stale air as Cole fought for composure. Surely he could not be the first young visionary to have ever stared into that chasm of mediocrity and inadequacy. The first idealist to teeter on the precipice of surrendering to their limitations before ever having tasted the sweet ambrosia of success. If he could just draw strength from those pioneers who had grappled with doubt and conquered. Almost of its own volition, Cole's hand groped across the cluttered desktop until his fingertips brushed the faded hardcover spine of the thick biography, his own personal talisman against those creeping tendrils of despair. The leather cover creaked in protest as he eased the weighty tome open, yellowing pages fanning in that flicker of lamplight like ephemeral wings yearning to take flight. Across the first few pages, a bold name emblazoned in the spidery scrawl of a grandparent's cursive seemed to sear itself into Cole's very consciousness. Amelia Earhart, immortal words and wisdom of an eternal sojourner. The faintest of smiles tugged at the boy's chapped lips as he began to hungrily devour the familiar passages. Amelia's own recollections of overcoming adversity, asymmetric attacks of self-doubt, of ruthlessly crushing every earthly anchor that couldn't keep pace with her trailblazing spirit. Each hard-won triumph sang like a siren's call through the vignettes, lifting Cole's crushed hopes on the upswept thermals of her indomitable perseverance. If Amelia could rise like a soaring falcon from the ashes of her own failures to become the first aviatrix to conquer the skies, then why couldn't he achieve his own wildest ambitions? Cole gripped the book tighter as he found solace anew in her soaring words and steely-eyed resolve. No matter how many gale forces threatened to buffet his dreams off course, he vowed to white-knuckle that flight plan towards destiny. He would pass this exam if it meant burning the very last vapours of fuel in his overstressed psyche. Then, nothing could keep his spirit grounded and fettered to this mediocre existence any longer. Cole Andrews was going to slip the surly bonds of earth, live up to the meteoric legacy blazed by Amelia and all the high-flying visionaries who had staked their claim amongst the stars. Even if it meant immolating every earthbound doubt and inertia-inducing limitation in the searing brilliance of his budding ambitions, he would fly. Well, Miss Earhart certainly has another one drinking deep from her fountain of perseverance, doesn't she? Cole flinched at the gentle lilt of his father's voice, the unexpected disruption yanking him from the soaring reveries inspired by his mystical mentor. He turned to find Andrew Andrews framed in the dim attic doorway, features barely discernible beyond the glow of his omnipresent briar pipe. "Jesus, Dad, You nearly gave me a heart attack, Cole gasped, hand clutched to his hammering chest as he tried to steady his nerves. Didn't anyone ever tell you not to sneak up on someone like that? The elder Andrews chuckled, a warm baritone that seemed to embrace Cole like a comforting blanket, despite its teasing undertones. Hard to sneak when these old bones groan and grind like an arthritic bag of rock salt with every step. You must have been flying higher than Earhart herself on those updrafts of heroic inspiration. He crossed the slanting threshold, ducking beneath the low-slung rafters, and eased himself onto a wobbly stool opposite Cole's battered study desk. Puffs of pungent smoke mingled with that familiar, comforting scent of rich pipe tobacco and old paper as Andrew swept a calloused hand across the tome's cover. I don't think there's another book in this house as dog-eared and creased as your Earhart biography, he mused, a slight tinge of nostalgia warmth lacing the words. You've been hauling this weighty spirit guide everywhere since you learned to string your first full sentences together. A flush crept into Cole's cheeks at his father's gentle ribbing. He couldn't deny the inherent truth. Ever since discovering the boundless wonder of Earhart's trailblazing tales, her tenacious quest for the heavens had eclipsed schoolboy obsessions with pirate ships and rocket racers. Maybe he'd always sensed that their spirits were kindred in some profound way. Two ambitious souls not content to simply gaze upon the stratosphere's tantalizing frontiers, but to push ever upward until those starry vistas became newly charted territories. For Cole, Amelia's triumph over adversity, over the very doubts that now gnawed at his own resolve, was the lodestar that had guided each of his wildest flights of fancy. Her existence soaring high above the sightlines of those limited to the terrestrial had catalyzed his own youthful ambition to join her out there amongst the clouds, tracing her airstream towards legend, while leaving humanity's earthbound limitations as so much ground fog in their jet wake. Maybe, if he could just find that elusive tailwind of perseverance in Amelia's words, her stalwart feats would bestow the rarefied lift to finally propel him beyond the gravity well of failure and harsh self-deprecations. Well, she did used to proclaim she had decided to swim the icy waters of the world in her quest for glory, Cole replied after clearing his tightening throat. I guess her tenacity and fearlessness in pursuit of the wild blue just struck a chord in this wannabe